A, no Diddy. um, so since every time I do a live, there's always people giving blessings or proffering their religious uh, avowals here. um, avowals is a short term for avowal beliefs. I separate genuine beliefs from avowals out of pure uh, philosophical pedantics. Okay. The difference being a genuine belief is something, just a matter of psychology to discover, whereas avowals or avowables, which are our professed or stated or uttered beliefs or thoughts, or may not be our genuine beliefs, but they are sincere. Um, and in any case, no matter what I'm talking about, people will come here and bless me, or they'll criticize me based on, my professed lack of faith or attention to certain religious or Christian ethics, or so be it, so forth. So we're going to have the religious debate today. And depending on how this go, I'm probably going to do this for the rest of the week. It's just going to be it's just going to be on different topics. I haven't done this since last year, where last year I would have like a mini series of live streams all hunkering down on a similar theme. So last year I did one uh on things dealing with the paranormal and the occult and extra scientific claims. Then I did one on other stuff. Sorry, I'm back. Had to answer a message. Uh, hey Nicole, what's up? So anyway, and everyone coming into the stream, like I said, we're gonna do a religious debate. And like I said, it's gonna be a mini series depending on how this go. I'm gonna keep doing these for the rest of the week, and it's gonna be similar to streams that I did last year, where I had like a running theme throughout the whole week, sometimes 2 weeks, where I would concentrate on different stuff. So like I had a whole so for like almost 2 weeks I did like a running theme based on like the paranormal and the occult and extra scientific stuff. I did another one on like philosophy topics. Uh I did another one like on geopolitical discussions. That one floundered very badly. um but the paranormal one went really well. Like a lot of people were interested in that. Well, not a lot of people. A lot of people germane to my live streams, not the big streamers. Like I wish it was like as big as like the big streamers, where they have like hundreds of thousands of people pouring in. I would love that. It would be no way I could manage to discuss the claims with everyone in that stream. Like, but it would be awesome. I've actually had that before, and that's actually how I ended up get, getting to a point where I was monetized. Was about 2 years ago. Yeah, about 2 years ago, during the presidential elections. Um, I held some live streams, and they just, you know, they got interesting. Excuse me while I eat some juju fruit. Um, Actually, juju fish. These are like they call it juju fish, which they're knockoff Swedish fish. Well, thank you for liking the live. What's up, Jessica? So again, I'm gonna have a religious debate. This one today is gonna be the topic is which religion is the best. And I want to state before we even get into all of this that I do have a background in analytic philosophy. So if you come making a bunch of wild, extraordinary claims, just understand I'm going to hold you to the fire of being able to rationally defend and justify what you say. J Dog says, sorry, I didn't realize, but am I allowed here? Why are you asking, are you allowed here? Is there some reason you shouldn't be here? Is there some proclivity you have in live in live streams with the chat room that makes you not a tenable person to be in those streams? I don't know. uh Driving 1,500 miles a day says, I don't think we are, bro. We have to go. I don't know what you're talking about. um Zella Davis says hi. uh Zella's back. I don't know if you're a dude or a lady, Zella, but welcome back. What's up, Carlton? He says salute, Just A Contrarian in chat. J Dog says because I'm Muslim. Dude, I don't discriminate against any religious person. The debate is simply which religion is the best. I'm not offering. If you think I'm already coming with a answer to that, you're sorely mistaken. I actually hold the well. You'll see what the view that I hold, but I don't hold a view on any of them being better, necessarily better than the others. But we can get into that, and I'm not going to discriminate against anyone dependent on their religious faith. Anyone, anyone of any faith is welcome in this discussion. On top of that, I was Muslim as a child. Like my real name is Aman. Well, my first name is Aman. So I was I was Muslim as a child, but raised Christian throughout most of my childhood and adolescence. And I also have um, uh, Dutch Jewish ancestry. So there you go. Carlton says, hit the like button, guys, if you don't mind. Make sure you hit the like button before you go. Also, smash that subscribe button. Smash it like it's a hot nurse. J. says, all right, thank you. I didn't mean any harm. No, I know you didn't mean any harm. I was just saying I didn't know what you mean when you said, are you allowed here? I don't. The only people I don't want in my streams are minors because my conversations are geared towards adults. Other than that, I don't have any restrictions on who appears as long as they're respectful. Even minors, I don't really mind them being here as long as they're respectful. My problem is I can't guarantee that other people in the chat room will be respectful. And that's why I don't like minors to be here. Because I can filter I can filter what I say, but I can't filter what other people say, unfortunately. All smiles is classified section. I don't get that either. Carlton said this is going to be an interesting topic. Yeah. So as I eat my knockoff Swedish fish, because I got them from the dollar store, so they call it Juju fish. But I'm a friend of the store manager. I've been seeing, I've been going back and forth to her store for like about 13, almost 13 years now. We even almost dated for a while. So, she was a rice bunny, Carlton. She was a rice bunny. Korean. So what religion are you now? I'm none. That's why I can have this discussion without having any bias towards one religion or the other. I don't hold any religious view. So I think the first thing I should probably get squared away is what do we mean by the best? I mean, so by the best, we can either mean uh I'm gonna leave this up to my moderator. Okay. So by the best, um Carter says, I guess the best religion depends on the person and what they get from it. So yeah, okay. So like I said, so this is the way I see we could define the best. Okay, then you can you and then the rest of the chat room, whoever's here, because there's only 3 people right now, but you or whoever else is in the chat room can decide what they think is the best. We can define best by having the most adherence to that religion. That's one way to define the best. Two, we can define it by the people having the most displaying the most pro-social behavior, at least statistically speaking or historically speaking. That's another way we can define the best. Or three, we can define the best by being the most rational of religious doctrines. I don't think like I think it would be very hard to have it be all three. I mean, we can strive for that, but I think it would be very it might be very difficult for the best religion to be all three of those. One, to have the most adherents. Two, to have to for its adherents to have the most pro-social behavior. And three, uh, for it to have for it to for it to be the most rational of religious or theological doctrines. But we can decide. I honestly, I think the first one is the worst. Would be the worst definition, which is simply which will simply be the appeal to popularity, which is it has the most adherents. But if you guys want to go by that, we can go by that, or we can, or here's the other idea: we can give three different. We can assign three different trophies, right? We can have the best religion according to uh, just popularity. Then we can have another one that's the best by uh, its followers having displaying the most pro-social behavior, either historically or statistically. And then we can assign a third trophy based on which doctrine seems the most rational in in lieu of contemporary society or whatever. So I'll leave that up to you guys. While I chew on my fake Swedish fish, the juju fish. Actually, I think there are juju fish. I don't know. I know some of you have a sweet tooth. You could tell me if there are separate juju fish. It might be juju fish, but to me, I thought they were just knockoff Swedish fish. Actually, no, these aren't. Yeah, these aren't. These may not be Swedish fish because Swedish fish are smaller and sweeter. That's. Let me make sure my chat filter is up and running. Mm-mm-mm. But yeah, guys. So, like I said, so we can do this one of three ways. We can do it the easy way, or we can do it the hard way, like Felice Johnson said, aka the booty bandit. Like, I'm joking. I'm joking. Oh, you want to do it the hard way? Let me stop. See, here we go. Jesus is the only way. Again, people coming into the live stream, the debate is what is the best religion? And again, I want to state up front because of my background in logic and analytical philosophy, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire if you make extraordinary claims by expecting that you can rationally defend and or justify that answer. If you cannot, I'm not going to take it seriously, and I am going to challenge those claims with respect. With respect, though. The best religion is the one that has the way to God. Dude, I don't want, again, you're going to be the first victim of me holding people to the proviso that you need to rationally defend and justify your answers. In what sense is that the best religion? Because he's not the one way to God. Which God? Which God are we talking about? Because again, there are literally thousands of gods. Are we talking about Mithra? Are we talking about Hercules? Are we talking about Zeus? Are we talking about Osiris? Are we talking about Quetzalcoatl? Are we talking about La Shi? Are we talking about Buddha? Many, any of the thousands of Buddhas there is? Are we talking about Vishnu? Who are we talking about? The one way to which God? Again, if you say some extraordinary claims, I want you to rationally defend and justify that answer, or I'm going to challenge it. And again, we need to define what we're going to mean by the best. The men, hold up. You're going to make me put on my damn glasses with these wild usernames. Leave. Boy. I was trying to go a day without my nerd glasses, but y'all gonna make me put on my BCGs. If you've never been in the military, BCGs is an old army term that means birth control glasses. Because they call them birth control glasses because they saying if you wear them, you're not gonna get any pussy. That's why they call them birth control glasses. Again, we have strong language in the army and the military in general. So if you can't deal with that, I'm sorry for you. Uh, name name my channel 6-7. Okay, what's up? Name my channel. I actually like to have more women here on my stream. Although my channel is very male centric, I do welcome women here whenever they are here. I have one or two female moderators. Well, one my wife, of course, and then also my friend Agatha when she's here. She's been busy lately. J.A.C says, I think the most popular one is Christianity, but I think the best followers are us Muslims. Bongo Bud Connor says, greetings all from the shores of Lake Ontario and Oswego, New York. What's up, Bongo? Son of Cole says, best is subjective, so there's no right or wrong answer. Wrong, because again, I am saying for the stream, we are going to define what we mean by best. In this discussion so that we aren't talking past each other. And I'm going to leave it to my moderator, Carlton, to decide this. So, again, we can decide what's the best religion either by option one, uh, the sheer number of adherents to that religion. I think that's the easiest way, but I think it's really the worst definition to use here. The second option two, will be we will define the best religion by whose adherents display the most pro social behavior, either statistically or historically. The third option three, is that we define the best religion by which religion has the most rational doctrine. And then the bonus option four, is that we assign three best religions in each category. Carter's global impact would probably go to Christianity. Um, Probably, but actually, I'm not even sure. Like I said, it would be a very easy way to define it just by sheer numbers, because all we literally have to do is just Google it and find that number. But I don't really think that would be, although that would be the easiest way to define the best religion. I don't think it would be the most. The excuse me, I don't think it would be the most elusive way to do so. I think either option two or option three would be better, or we can play it safe with option four and give three different trophies. One for most. So option four. Sorry, I'm eating my juju fish. So option four would be to do all three. Right, one will get best religion based on sheer number of adherents. Then the second trophy will go to the one whose religion uh, historically and statistically displays the most pro-social behavior amongst its followers. And three will be the and the third trophy will go to the religion that its doctrine is the most rational amongst the uh, religious doctrines out there. But like I said, I think option one is the worst option just to use that one alone. Now, if we do option four, then that's fine because then that we get to use that and the other two as well. if uh if I have to decide which is the best, I'm gonna go with option four where we give a trophy to each under each three categories. Carlton says I need to become familiar with different religions. Yeah, this is gonna be like a comparative religion discussion. um but there are a lot of religions out there. And we can include dead religions as well. We don't have to only include extant religions. We can include dead religions as well. Dead religions normally fall under mythology. J Dog asks if you don't mind me asking, why don't you associate with religion anymore? Because I'm atheist. um, I find them all to be false. I find them all to be patently false. And I think outside of taking it on faith, there's no reason to believe, to hold any of these doctrines seriously. But that is my view, which is why I don't I don't have a personal favorite. Most people with a background in philosophy or science tend to be atheists or agnostic. And since I fall under both philosophy and science, that that was already a foregone conclusion for me. Aside from that, I was already that way before I even started my undergrad. Uh, so yeah. Bongo says I was brought up Catholic. I went to a couple of different denominations of Christian churches. Then I read Conversations with God. That book changed my outlook on life. So, so that wasn't like That wasn't like a scripture book that you read. I assume. I'm guessing that's more like a contemporary book that kind of discusses one's faith and maybe on a from a Catholic perspective, I guess. So anyway, so Carlton, should we go with option four and assign each category their own trophy, or should we just stick with either option one, two, or three? Oh no, it is. Bongo says no, it's a self-help book. Okay. Bongo says I believe in God, but I don't believe that God is a white beard man in a flowing robe watching over me. Well, again, like I said yesterday, the whole image, the whole image of God being an old white bearded man in a flowing robe is basically because people in Christianity adopted the image of Zeus. So Jehovah looks like a old white man with a flowing beard because the image of Zeus was written onto onto Jehovah, even though as a god of the Levantine region, he wouldn't have looked originally like that at all in his conceptual, and as a he was originally a storm god. Well, actually, Jehovah was a merger of uh, two different ancient Palestinian deities, El and Yahweh. Okay, guys. So my moderator Carlton says option four sounds good. So that means we are going to assign a best category for all three options. That is option four. So option four is that we're going to assign a best to all three of the available options. So option one was best religion based on sheer number of adherents. That's going to be the easiest one to do. We're going to knock that one right out the park. Number two is going to lead is going to take a little bit of digging, but we're going to but then the second one we're going to give a second best category for uh which uh which religion has adherents that displays the most pro-social behavior, and that I, I I don't know a priori which religion that will be. A lot of people would like to assume that that's Christianity, but I'm not too sure about that. Um, and then the the third category we're going to assign the best to will be um, which religion has the most rational doctrine. Rational in the sense that it doesn't it it doesn't make its believers um, assume as many absurdities or falsehoods as other religions. That might be the hardest one and may venture into the subjective. We'll see. We can use Google along the way and ChatGPT. Bongo says, in my opinion, all religions are just man's attempt to control man. Well, yeah. And that might be a topic for later this week. The origins of religion. What are the origins? But it seems that the original origins of religion stem from both our neurobiology, which is the fact that we all seem to have a part of our brain that is elicited that 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 be that is active when we contemplate religious and spiritual ideas. So we literally have a religious part of our brain, and I think it works a little bit different. That part of the brain may be less active in people who tend to be atheists and agnostic. But that's the first part. There's a neurobiological a neurobiological component to the origins of religion, um, which is which is to say that um, where that religious belief is innate. Okay, then the other origin of religion is the fact that man has used religion to seek understanding and or control of nature in times existing before science and other academic disciplines of the sort. But again, that will probably be a topic for a different day. Today we just want to discuss which is the best religion, and we can do a topic another day on what are the origins of religion. Okay, Bongo says religion is the cause of most of the wars in this world. Uh, yes and no. Um, so um, I think I think religion has been used as a tool for war and conquest, but not necessarily that it was the cause itself. What I think is even with our religion, people would have come up with something that would have been a catalyst for them waging war on each other. Even if religion wasn't there, we would still find reasons to make war and conquest upon each other. I mean, look at countries like uh, the former Soviet Union and uh, communist China and North Korea. These are all countries that avow uh, atheism or communist atheism. However, that has not assuaged them of their uh, capacity for conquest and militarism. Instead, they'll use other uh, things as a catalyst for them to be militaristic, such as economic reasons and geopolitical reasons. And so, religion isn't so much the tool. I mean, sorry, religion isn't so much the cause of most of the wars in the world as it has been a tool or a proxy for people to make war upon others when the real cause was conquest, natural resources, that sort of thing. Carlin says Elohim. No, so what I when I was talking about El, there so again there were there were two gods worshipped uh by the ancient Hebrews before it was organized into Judaism as we know it today. There was Yahweh, which was this storm god, this warlike storm god, and there was El. El was the the worship of El wasn't a monotheism. It was it was a polytheistic it was a polytheistic religion because El was the father and leader of a pantheon of gods, and he would have had more of the image that we consider of God, of the Christian Judeo Christian God today, more of as an elderly man, bearded, but the more warlike uh, understanding of Jehovah, especially in the Old Testament, that is Yahweh, the whole warmongering storm god sort of sort of conceptualization of the early Judeo-Christian God. That was Yahweh. And like I said, over time in Judaism, those two gods merged into one deity, both El and Yahweh. Elohim is actually more like Elohim is actually like a statement of of what God is, not not just his name, that but the Elohim description of God comes from the old, you know, the old religion of the I don't remember the actual name of that of that pre-Judaic religion, but of El. And like I said, in that in that uh in that ancient Hebrew religion, he that wasn't a monotheism. It was a it was a pantheist religion. Pantheism meaning many gods. I'm sorry, not pantheism. I'm sorry. That's something. Polytheism. I'm sorry. As I was, polytheism means, belief in many gods, whereas monotheism is the belief in one god. And so again, the concept of Yahweh, which was established in a different region of the Levantine region, and which was a warmongering storm god, and that of El, who was the father and elder of many other of a family of gods, got merged into one. And so the early Hebrews weren't strictly monotheistic. They were there. If you even see this in the Old Testament, like they were henotheistic originally. Henotheism means that you believe in one God, but you recognize that other people, other groups, other ethnicities, other tribes, other nations have their own God. So for the for the ancient Hebrews, Yahweh was their God, and their God is the God of their people, their nation. And they recognized that other nations had their own gods. The Egyptians had their own gods. The you know the uh, the Assyrians had their own gods. The Greeks had their own gods. The Romans had their own gods. Um, so on and so forth. Um, but later on, eh, like I said, as we come into the towards the end of the Old Testament and the beginning of the New Testament, it is no longer accepted that other people other people's gods are legitimate. Instead, they see that there's only one God, which is theirs, and then instead he just and but how they square that circle is that they are the chosen people of that God, but that he is not. But he is the God of all people. It's just that they are his chosen people. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. I think it makes it worse actually to say we are the chosen people. Um, but again, this shows the evolution of religious thought, and we can get into more of that again if once I do a we can do a live stream on the origins of religion, and we can get into that a little bit more. But what we need to do is try to get to what is uh, the best religions under those three options now that we've already discussed. So option one is what is the best religion in sheer numbers, of adherence. Then the second category is going to be what is the best religion as far as whose adherents display the most pro-social behavior, either historically or statistically. Then the third one um, is whose religion is the best by it being the most rational of doctrines amongst the other religions. Okay. So Bongo says the biggest lie ever told is that we are separate from God. I don't know what that means. Again, that gets into what I said yesterday about deepities. If most of you weren't here when I discussed that, and again, a deepity is a term def, uh, that originates with the late philosopher Daniel Dennett, who passed away a year ago. And a deepity is his term for pseudo wisdom. It is something that is either trivially true, which means it's just true by virtue of you know it's just true by definition or uh, logical principles, or it's patently false. But the way it's stated, it sounds like it would be profound if it were true. That is a deepity or pseudo wisdom. And saying something like the biggest lie ever told is that we are separate from God is one of those deepities. It's one of those things that's just patently false, but it would be profound if it were true. So J Dog even says, "Hey, can you elaborate on that, Bongo?" There you go. Thank you, J Dog. That's what I talk about, holding each other accountable by saying we need to rationally defend and justify the claims that each other makes here in this discussion. Bongo says, "What is God? God is everything, and if God is everything, what are we? A piece of God that chose to forget He is God." That is called a circular argument, Bongo. You're saying, "What is God? God is everything, and if God is everything, what are we? A piece of God that." You're already assuming what you ought to be proving. That is a that is a circular argument, a petitio principii. You're assuming what you ought to be proving. It is a logical fallacy. Carlton says it also depends on how people implement their religious beliefs. A lot of people use religion as an excuse to conquer and unalive people. Exactly. So that's what I mentioned earlier as well, which is that religion has often been used as a tool, but not just for bad things, but for good things too. A lot of our literature, art, and music have been inspired by people's religious faith. Some of the most beautiful music that's ever been made has been inspired through religion. And I'm not talking about like just gospel religion today. Like I'm not talking about Kirk Franklin and all that sort of stuff. I'm talking about like classical Baroque music, like the when you hear certain stuff from like Beethoven and I like European classical music. Okay, so but not just European classical music. Class when you hear religion, um, tribe. If you hear tribal music from indigenous people, um, or uh, the music stemming out of um, classical the classical era of Asian culture. This was all religiously inspired. This is beautiful music. A lot of the art, we look at a lot of European medieval art. A lot of that was inspired by religion, or again, indigenous art and Asian art. A lot of this was religiously inspired. So religion has been a tool used for artistic inspiration, for military conquest, for nation building, for social unity. Um, eh, so it's neither. So religion isn't really a bad or a good thing. It's a tool that can be used in multifarious ways. Multifaceted ways. Bongo says to experience what God can be. Again, what does that even mean? You're saying things that you're just saying grandiose things though don't that don't really mean anything. Like these are deepities. Like like they just sound profound, but they don't really say much. And I'm not trying to pick on you at all, Bongo. I'm just saying, like I said from the beginning of my stream, that if people make grandiose or extraordinary claims, I'm going to hold their feet to the fire as well as I hope you hold my feet to the fire, where I'm saying that we need to be able to rationally defend and justify our claims in this discussion, or things will just become very flowery and meaningless. Deborah Craig says, hi, what's up? Carter says, yep, in the book of Genesis, they acknowledge more than one God. Let's make man in quote unquote our image. People forget that sometimes. Exactly. Deborah said, and Yah said in the word, I am the most high God. There is none higher in the world. Okay. So Carlson says option one, I guess Islam, then folks are disciplined like a mug based on my observation. So, like I said, let's get option one out of the way right now. We can just simply Google this. This is going to be the easiest category to assign a winner. So I'm already on my turn my computer on. Oh, what's going on here? Is the screen not on? All right. All right, there we go. Yeah, but yeah, this is gonna be the easiest one. So let's go ahead and knock this one out the park right now. Uh, So which religion has the most followers? Pretty straightforward question. Should get a pretty straightforward answer. Mm-mm. So if we're going by sheer numbers, then Christianity. So as of 2024, Christianity is the religion with the most followers, boasting over 2.3 billion adherents, which represents about 31% of the global population. Following Christianity, Islam is the second largest religion with approximately 1.6 billion followers. By 2026, the Sunni Muslim population is noted to exceed 1.59 billion, but Christianity remains the largest. So, for the first trophy in best religion for having the most adherents, the trophy goes to Christianity, which I kind of expected, but I didn't want to just uh, I didn't want to assume without actually being able to back that up. Uh, and so you guys can look that up whether you want to go to. I saw this. This comes from Bing Copilot search, and it references several sites that you can look at this up. Vedantu, nationaltraveler.com, statistics and data. So those are three different sources you can look up. There's also Wikipedia. I don't trust Wikipedia, but you can look up Wikipedia. You can look up Britannica. You can go to Britannica.com. But I like statisticsandData.org. I like that one. Either way, they will all give you the same answer. Christianity has the most adherents uh, with over 2.3 billion people. So that answers option one. So as far as best religion, as far as the number of followers, Christianity um, gets that gets that trophy. Son of Cole says the quote unquote hour isn't referencing multiple gods according to the scripture. Again, the scripture is Christian scripture. Your scripture doesn't apply to everyone across the world. It doesn't apply to all the 8 billion people in the world. It only applies to 2.3 billion of them. You can't you can't force your faith on someone else and say it's the best just because that's what you already believe. That is that is not how reason works. That's not how the principles of reason work. Anyway, Carlton says facts. Religion did help inspire beautiful art. I like architecture of cathedrals. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like religious temples, the architecture that went into a lot of the construction of churches, mosques, um, all sorts of religious temples are works of art. Son of Cole said that is in reference to the Abrahamic God, so I have to use the Abrahamic scripture. Yeah, but the point here is we're talking about the best religion, and you can't simply say it, it's circular just to say, well, I'm using this Abrahamic scripture, therefore, by Abrahamic scripture, Christianity is the best religion. Like, that's circular. We need non-tendentious data. Non-tendentious data means it's not circular. It's not, you're not using the same data to prove what to assume what ought to be proved. Oh, you said I was replying to Carlton's message specifically. Okay, well, all right. So moving on. So again, so as far as best religion by sheer numbers of followers, Christianity gets it hands down. Let's move on to part to to category two. What which religion is best in terms of having followers with the most pro-social behavior? Oh no, you're good, son of Cole. He said my bad. um, so this one I don't know. I don't know already which one. Diff Roddy says Islam. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be mean. But I seriously doubt that Islam is going to win category two. I'm sorry. When most people across the world think of radical religions, militaristic religions, religions that put fear in people's heart, they think Islam. So I'm already telling you right here, I seriously doubt that Islam is going to win this category. I seriously doubt it. He said pro social, maybe Hinduism or Buddhism. Yeah, I'm think like I said, we're gonna look this up, but my 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 hunch is that as far as the religion with the most pro-social behavior is going to go to a Eastern religion, a East Asian religion. Different says, I think my grandma's brain is on. You're good. Oh, not sorry. Be careful with the emojis because my AI moderator will will um will time you out for like overuse of emojis. Some of course as Christian dominant nations seem to be more free. That is true as well. That's why I said I'm not sure on this one, Son of Cole, because Christianity might get this as well. So I'm not sure. But let's look this up. And even though I'm gonna look this up, we can still discuss this one. The first option was just a pure matter of number. So there wasn't the first one wasn't really was a pretty cut and dry sort of question and answer. This one we can think about a little bit more, despite what we might get churned out by the AI search engine. So I'm gonna say which religion has the most pro social followers. Um, And I'm not going to use Copilot here. I want to use Google because Google has a more powerful search engine than Bing. I think people can correct me if they think that's wrong. But I'm going to assume Google has the most powerful search engine here and use that. Okay. But it is, but yeah, it is, but that that is a fact that um, Christian Western nations seem to have the most political freedom. Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have the most pro-social behavior, though. Although they are obviously not, although they're not mutually exclusive, right? So here's the AI overview from Google, and I'm going to read this verbatim, okay? Then we can discuss this. So Google says in the AI overview, research on pro-social behavior defined as actions intended to help others, such as volunteering and charitable giving, suggests that in the United States, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Mormons, are frequently identified as having the most pro-social followers. Based on studies regarding volunteering and charitable donations, here are the key findings. Latter-day Saints, which are Mormons. Studies from the University of Pennsylvania found that active Mormons are exceptionally pro-social, volunteering an average of 35.6 hours per month, including church callings, and donating 9.3% of their income to charity, more than double the national average of 4%. Muslims. In the United States, Muslim communities have been highlighted for high levels of charitable giving, zakat, with studies suggesting they are among the most generous religious groups, particularly in contributions to civil rights and social inequality causes. Hmm. Evangelical Christians. In the US, evangelical Christians are noted for high percentages of income donated to charity, often averaging around 4.5%. Catholics. The Catholic Church operates the largest non governmental network of educational and health institutions in the world, including a vast network of homeless shelters and food pantries. Jews. Studies indicate that Jewish individuals in the US often give high dollar amounts per capita to charity. So, key factors influencing pro social behavior. Research generally indicates that individuals with a strong religious affiliation, regardless of specific faith, tend to volunteer and donate more than those with no religious affiliation. Factors contributing to high pro sociality often include strong community bonds, a theological emphasis on service, and regular attendance at worship services. So before I give the trophy, I want to expand this globally because this was focusing just on the US and I want to expand this globally. I don't want this to just be a US thing. So so once we expand it to globally, it gets harder to define by even by the AI. So so the AI overview says determining which religion has the quote most unquote pro social followers globally is complex, as research indicates that pro social behavior, charity, volunteering, and altruism is often driven more by the intensity of religious belief and community integration rather than the specific doctrine itself. Based on various studies, however, several groups show high levels of pro social behavior. Guess who still ranks number one, guys? Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter day Saints, Mormons, a study from the University of Pennsylvania founded blah blah blah, as we already mentioned. Um, Active participants in religious communities across various faiths: Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Judaism, and Buddhism. Individuals who attend service regularly and report higher levels of personal religious belief are more likely to exhibit pro social preferences such as higher trust and altruism, according to a 2021 study. Catholics. The Catholic Church is often cited as having a massive, long standing global impact through charity, funding schools, hospitals, and community service, which reflects high levels of institutional and individual pro sociality. Muslims. Islamic philanthropy is highly organized, particularly through zakat, which means compulsory giving, and studies indicate that Muslims, along with Jews, often give heavily to organizations supporting civil rights and social causes. Oops. Uh, Key findings on religious prosociality: in group versus out group. Research suggests that religious prosociality is often strongest within one's own religious group, although, when encouraged to think about God, people of various faiths showed increased generosity towards strangers regardless of their religion. Guys, this is some this is actually sound this is actually making me feel good. Okay. Contextual factors. The link between religion and pro-social behavior is stronger in countries with weaker secular social safety net institutions, suggesting that religion often fills a vital community support role. In other words, in poorer countries, people have to rely more on um, the religious communities for um, for the social welfare of people who are without than in more westernized nations that usually have a stronger social safety net or social welfare. The 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 quote Good Samaritan unquote effect. The core tenets of most major religions, including Christianity and Islam, emphasize altruism and helping others, often prompting high levels of charitable activity. While some studies highlight specific groups like Mormons due to their high community involvement, overall prosociality is generally linked to the depth of an individual's religious commitment rather than the superiority of one faith over another. So, guys, we do have a winner, but first, I do want to say that that looking at this information, uh, it 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 stands to reason that most people who are devout in their faith tend to display more pro-social behavior than people who are not involved in organized religion. So, and as an atheist, I don't have a problem with acknowledging that. I can acknowledge that, yes, people who tend to come from uh, religious communities do often display more pro-social behavior than non-religious people. That's that's simply just a fact. I don't have a problem with that because it is true. I don't really donate or volunteer that much. Every once in a while, I do, but very rarely. Uh, but we do have a winner. So again, so the first category for best religion in terms of sheer number of adherents went to Christianity. Okay. So the second category, the winner for best religion in terms of who has the most pro social followers, is the Mormons, also called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter day Saints. Mormons have the most pro social behavior of any group, of any religious group. Okay. So I wanted, so, and remember, I did double check. So if originally it was just giving us that in the context of just the US, so then I made sure to qualify the question a little bit more for the search engine to make sure that we were talking about it in terms of globally. And even though the AI did acknowledge that it's a little bit more complex, so we can with respect argue about that a little bit more. It seems to be the case that Mormons tend to be the have the most pro-social behavior. That makes sense. I mean, have we ever heard of Mormons going to war with anyone? um, no. I mean, they may have some ridiculous beliefs, but as far as pro-social behavior, I guess they win that one, guys. Did I lose you folks? I don't see anyone. Let me change the chat filter here. Look like the number of people dropped out again. Um, but oh, thanks. Carter says I'm here. So what do you think? Like, so Mormons get the second trophy for best religion in terms of having the most pro-social followers. I wouldn't have guessed that. I know that Mormons, are very charitable and all that. But I didn't think they were gonna get that one. But it sounds about right. Every Mormon I remember a guy. I got I remember my bunk buddy when I was in basic training. He was Mormon. That dude wouldn't even cuss. Like when he was mad, he was like, "Man, this friggin'." When he was, it would be so funny when he's mad. He would not cuss. He would just like, "Man, this friggin' drill sergeant, this friggin' this and that." It used to be so funny because that was the closest he would say to, "Man, fuck this shit." Like, but he would never. The dude would never cuss. He'd be like, "Man, this friggin' drill sergeant is friggin' cold out here, man. Friggin'." It was it was funny as hell. He would not cuss, and I kept waiting. Like every time he got mad, I'm waiting for him to just just drop f bombs, and he would not. He would not cuss. He was cool as shit. I hope that guy's doing. Well, one, I hope he's alive, and two, if he is alive, I hope he's doing well. Because he was a cool dude. Pretty much everyone I remember from boot camp, they were good folks. Some of the girls were kind of hot. A few of them liked me, but whatever. Yes, we had co-ed boot camp because I was at Fort Jackson in South Carolina. Fort Jackson was a co-ed Army boot camp, and I enjoyed that very much because about like 2 3 weeks in, everybody was horny. So the girls like to flirt with us. We flirted with them, and because by 3 or 4 weeks in, we were all starting to get physically fit, the girls were starting to look more feminine and sexy. We were starting to look more buff. So we were all like looking at each other like pieces of steak. We were just like, me and my homeboys, we would just flirt with the girls just to, to fritter the time away. Like, yo, what's up? You looking kind of good right now. They start smiling, laughing. Oh yeah, you look all right too. I was like, hey, thank you. I was like, like one girl, like shit. All right, I know this is an aside. I'm gonna get back to the topic, but I remember so in one in one case, this one white girl, she was like arguing with this other black girl. They both liked me, and they were both arguing about who could get me. She was like, "Well, if I want," because the white girl, she was like, "If I really want him, I could just take him from you." I'm just saying, and she was saying it like really in a low key way, like she was saying it in a way that she wasn't bragging, but she was bragging. And I ain't say anything. I'm just sitting there listening to them go back and forth with each other. It was hilarious. The white girl, like the snow bunny, she's like, she was cute too. She was like, yeah, if I really want him, I could get him. You know what I'm saying? I could take him from you. And then the black girl was going back at her. She was like, yeah, but if I want him, he's gonna be with me. Like, I'm just looking like, do I? I'm looking at them go back and forth about me, and I'm thinking, do I have any say in this? Do I get do I get to choose? Like, it was crazy. But the white girl, she was like, she was legit because the day the day of our graduation from boot camp, like we still had one day we had to stay there, but we didn't have to do anything. Like we were already considered soldiers now. So the day before we shipped over to AIT, to our advanced training for our MOS, for our job. That night of, she was like, "You want to go upstairs to the bay, to the barracks? We can go." She was like, we can go to the latrine. No one's back there because there's the showers and all that." And I was tempted, but I was like, "Nah, we gonna get in trouble. I'm not, I'm not trying to catch a article. I'm not trying to catch some Article 21 on, uh, not Article 21, but anyway, I'm not trying to catch an article right on the day of boot camp graduation because even though the Bay Area seems empty, there's always a drill sergeant hovering around the Bay Area. Even though I mean, in the barracks, like even though the barracks may seem empty, there's always a drill sergeant because every platoon had like three drill sergeants assigned to them, and then when you assign then the whole Bay Area is like there's four, there's four platoons to a company, right? And I'm like, nah, we gonna get in trouble because she wanted to get her backbone out. She was about that life. I wasn't about that life. I wanted to smash. Trust me, it had been 9 weeks. You know what I'm saying? And she was looking mighty good, but I was I wasn't willing to risk it. Anyway, let's get back to the topic. Let's get back to the topic, guys. Um, but that shit was funny though. They both sitting there discussing who could get me, and I'm just looking like, damn, do I get a say in who I want? Like, you had the little chocolate girl on one end and the little snow bunny on the other end. It was hilarious. I should have been like, well, why don't I just have the both of you, so I can have my vanilla and chocolate, and we can do the swirl. I don't know, but man, if it wasn't boot camp, I would have blew their backs out, both of them. But I wasn't trying to do that in boot. But anyway, here we let's back. Sorry, bad contrarian. Let's get back to the topic. So, Carter says swirl, lol. That's right. They won't get the vanilla and chocolate with the nuts. she, the Snow Bunny would have provided the vanilla. Uh little brown skin girl would have provided the chocolate. Now would have provided the nuts. No pause. No pause. Ended up having a goddamn baby and nah, buddy. But anyway, so so again, so we've got two of the three answered already for best religion. So the first winner for best religion in terms of sheer number of adherents goes to Christianity. The second winner for best religion in terms of the most pro-social followers goes to the Mormons, or also known as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Here's the third one. The third one I think is going to be the most complex. The third one is which religion is best in terms of having the most rational doctrine. All right. So let's get to this one. All right. So again, we're gonna get an assist from Google because why not? And so Google basically confirms what I said, that this is going to be very subjective. Okay, but I'm gonna give the AI overview that it provides. So determining the quote most rational unquote religion is subjective, as rationality depends on whether one prioritizes empirical observation, philosophical logic, or divine revelation. Well, I'm gonna already tell you right now, when I'm talking about rationality, I am prioritizing empirical observation and philosophical logic, hands down. That's what we mean. I'm not referring to divine revelation. I do not define that, falls outside of what we know to mean to be rational. Rational means to be supported on, you know, to either be justified, to be rationally justified, or to have um, supporting empirical evidence or to cohere with other rational beliefs. Okay, and to follow the principles of reason and logic. Okay, so divine revelation falls outside of that camp. But let me continue with the AI overview. Okay, Buddhism is frequently cited for its compatibility with science and emphasis on empirical, mind-based investigation. Conversely, deism relies purely on reason rather than revelation. These are facts. So you don't have to really give up one's scientific uh, view of the world to become Buddhist. As a matter of fact, you can be Buddhist and adhere to other religions as well. However, I've noticed that Catholicism has been quite um, more flexible than it has been in the Middle Ages. For instance, the not this pope, but the pope preceding who just retired. The dude had a master's in I believe chemical engineering. It was I think he had met it was a master's in either in chemistry or chemical engineering. So hey, uh, but anyway, let me continue with the AI overview. So Buddhism, often described as a quote unquote science of the mind, it emphasizes personal experience over blind faith, aligning closely with empirical investigation. Yeah, but that depends on what type of Buddhism, because some some tenets of Buddhism tend to be more dealing in mysticism, and I don't and anything delving into mysticism falls outside of the realm of rationality by definition, because mysticism means just um, focusing on what we don't know. Anyway, so deism, a philosophical position rather than a traditional religion, it uses reason to conclude a creator exists, specifically rejecting revelation and dogma. So yeah, I will give that too, because there's a long-standing joke amongst atheists that deists are just atheists that haven't um, who haven't lived long enough yet, meaning a deist eventually will become an atheist. And that was true in my case, because throughout my adolescence, I was mostly a deist. Like I didn't have any strong religious faith. Like I guess you could say I was a Christian deist, but I didn't hold any strong religious faith. Like I didn't. Uh, Matter of fact, I didn't even know what atheist meant. Like the first time I even encountered the word, I was like 13, maybe 14, and I was reading an article in the Washington Post. Yeah, I was reading an article in the Washington Post when I was like 13 or 14. Not a big deal. Anyway, and I was asking my father, I was like, Dad, what does atheist mean? He was like, oh, that just, he said, oh, and he just glossed over. He's like, oh, that just means people who to be, refuse to believe there's a God. That was his definition he gave me, which was such bullshit, but whatever. That was the very first time I heard of atheism, and since he gave such a dismissive description of the term, I didn't even I didn't think that the position was anything to take seriously at the time. At the time, all right, and here we go. Philosophical slash rationalist perspective. Some argue that atheism or non-religious rationalist frameworks are the most logical, with studies sometimes linking higher IQ to non-religious belief. So yes, that is true that people higher in general intelligence tend to be more non-religious. However, that falls outside of what we're talking about here. We're talking about religion, not non-religion, non-religious belief. So we're talking. So the third category will go to the religion that is the most that holds the most rational doctrine. So by definition, a non-religious belief cannot cannot fall into that category. All right. So let me continue with the AI overview. So ultimately, the quote Parliament of the World's Religion, Chicago, United States, 1893, a, uh, a commonly held modern view is that Buddhism is exceptionally compatible with science and reason, or even that it is a kind of science, perhaps a quote unquote science of the mind or a quote unquote scientific religion. Wikipedia, unquote, and quote, uh, deism, derived from the Latin term deus, meaning God, obviously, is the philosophical position and rationalistic theology that rejects prophecies, revelations, and religious texts as legitimate or reliable sources of divine knowledge, and instead asserts that empirical reason and Wikipedia unquote suggests that different systems excel in different areas of rationality. So we're gonna have to parse this a little bit, guys. So the AI overview coming from Google has already said this is a subjective this is a subjective uh, question, right? Because we have, but that just means, but not really as subjective as they would have us think. Because once we remove divine revelation from this, then it becomes very more astute what we mean by rationality, meaning prioritizes empirical observation and philosophical logic. Okay, divine revelation I don't consider rationality because it it no. I'm thinking though, why hasn't it included maybe Unitarianism? But all right, so I did a deeper dive, guys. I hit the deeper dive button, so let's go into it a little bit more. Determining which religion is the quote unquote most rational subjective, as rationality depends on the premises you accept. Different traditions appeal to logic in distinct ways. Buddhism, often cited for its empirical approach, emphasizes personal experience, cause and effect, karma, which I don't find to be rational at all. I think karma is bullshit because we can get into that later. But anyway, and a psychological framework that avoids reliance on a creator deity, which many find aligns with modern secular logic. So basically, so one can see Buddhism as a little bit more rational because it doesn't have a creator deity. But again, that depends on the type of Buddhism because some variants of Buddhism do have creator deities. Tibetan Buddhism does. Japanese Buddhism often does. But yeah, some versions of Buddhism do have creation deities, so that's completely not true. Not only that, there's some variants of Buddhism that have literally thousands of Buddhas. Anyway, so next is Islam. Islam emphasizes rational theology, kalam, arguing that the complexity of the universe necessitates a single intelligent creator, encourages the study of the natural world as evidence of divine order. So that gets into the argument from the argument uh, the argument from a creator, or the argument from, or the related argument from intelligent design. They're the same thing. The problem with that is you already have to assume that there's an intelligent designer or intelligent creator to, and then you go on to say that that therefore leads to these premises that prove that there is in fact a single intelligent creator. That is a circular argument, a vicious circular argument at that, and it's not helped with the conjoining argument uh, of study of the natural world as evidence of the divine order, because again, that is an argument from design. That is a circular argument, is fallacious. I don't find that rational. Now, in the context of the medieval world, yes, Islam would have been a slightly more rational religion in the medieval world. As a matter of fact, in the Dark Ages, when Europe fell to its more primitive bases, it was largely the Islamic world in the middle, in the Middle East and North Africa, that kept alive a lot of the knowledge that we that was discovered in during the Greco-Roman period, the Golden Era. It was in it was in the Islamic world in the Middle Ages that kept alive the knowledge, the math, the science, the logic that was discovered in ancient Greece and in ancient Rome. And so, yes, and in that era, Islam was the more rational religion at that time. I hate this. I mean, not that I hate to say it, but um, people may not like that that little tidbit of fact. But yeah, in the medieval world, the Islamic folks were the more rational, if not more civilized folks. Which goes to the next one, Catholicism. Catholicism boasts a long tradition of scholasticism. Exactly, that's a whole philosophical. That was a whole philosophical movement. Because no, excuse me, scholasticism. I need more water. E.g., Thomas Aquinas, which asserts that faith and reason are compatible and that God's existence can be argued through philosophical proofs. Yes, that is true. However, Catholicism was not widely known as a very rational faith, neither then nor much so now. So, yeah, no. Judaism places a high value on intellectual inquiry and debate. Yes, so Judaism definitely places a high value on intellectual inquiry and debate, which is why you find so many academics coming out of the Judaic tradition. Because this is why people of Jewish descent usually tend to be high performing. Well, uh, let's let's not. Sorry, let me not mix up the causal arrows here, but it is a known fact that when you look at different average IQs of different ethnic groups, the ethnic group with the highest average IQ of all ethnic groups are Ashkenazi Jews. Ashkenazi meaning German-based, Jews. Uh, they display the highest average IQs, I believe, at an average of about 106, something like that. Uh, yeah, I think about 106 average. Which again, that may not sound high, but we're talking about average, where the general population is has a average IQ that's normally distributed in the shape of a bell curve, where the average is 100. So for that group to have an average IQ of 106, that's half a centile higher than the general population across the world. whereas the lowest performing ethnic group as far as average IQ are sub-Saharan Africans, Black Africans, with an average IQ of 68, which will put you, which if an individual had an IQ of 68, that will put them in the category of uh, intellectual dysfunction, aka mental retardation. Okay, so average IQ can is very important when you're looking at different ethnic groups. Although it doesn't tell you anything about an individual within that group, because within group differences are always higher than between group differences when it comes to general intelligence and other phenomena that is normally distributed throughout the general population. But anyway, getting off that, back to this. So yeah. Lastly, is deism, historically popular during the Enlightenment. It suggested a creator based solely on reason and observation of the natural world, rejecting supernatural revelation or miracles entirely. Ultimately, rationality, quote unquote, in religion usually refers to how well a faith's internal logic holds up once you accept its starting axioms. So that is not what we're doing here. So we're not talking about rationality in terms of the faith's internal logic. When I said which religion is best in terms of having the most rational doctrine, I wasn't talking about its necessarily its internal logic. I was talking about in terms of it having uh, having an empirical approach and using principles of logic. So yes, in Catholicism you have scholasticism, but that's not all Catholicism. That was a specific philosophical movement within Catholicism. So I can't attribute all of that. I can't. So I can't. It would seem imprudent to to prescribe all of to prescribe scholasticism to all to the entire Catholic tenet when it was a specific philosophical movement based within Catholicism. Uh, Buddhism, yes, is often cited for its empirical approach, but again, because Buddhism has so many different doctrines and tenets, it would be hard pressed to say that um, all Buddhism is equally rational, because again, you have stuff like Tibetan Buddhism that does posit deities and a bunch of mystical stuff that most people wouldn't find to be very rational. They might find it spiritually enlightening, to be sure, but I wouldn't necessarily consider it very rational to be posit all these hundreds of gods. Not to mention Tibetan Buddhism, like other forms of Buddhism, also believe in a constant reincarnation of the Buddha, meaning there's literally innumerous Buddhas from the past to the present. That, yeah, I don't think so. and then and then you have like Japanese uh, Buddhism. And there's different variants. You have Zen Buddhism, which is the most common, but there's forms of Buddhism in Japan that mix Shinto, its native religion, with Zen Buddhism, which was transported from China to Japan, where in China it was called Chan Buddhism, but was known as Zen Buddhism in Japan. And there's became sort of a syncretic religion where it mixed the elements of Shintoism, which is a polytheistic religion um, indigenous to Japan, with Zen Buddhism, which doesn't posit any deity whatsoever. Um, so again, because of that, I'm not going to say Buddhism is the most rational as far as doctrine, because again, it has we didn't even get to Buddhism versus little Buddhism, and the belief in karma and nirvana and all that sort of stuff. I don't, all that stuff combined, I don't think makes it the most rational. Okay. As far as Catholicism, again, I already stated that although it does have a long tradition of scholasticism, that 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 uh, goes to a small number of folks who are trained specifically in that philosophy. Not the average Catholic doesn't know about uh, scholasticism in such in that way to really be like a practicing philosopher, whatever. Islam, yeah, emphasizes rational theology, but again, it would be hard pressed to consider that rational by using fallacious arguments like the argument from design and uh, the argument from uh, and other similar types of fallacious logical arguments that anyone who takes one class in philosophy 101 can completely debunk. Yeah, Islam definitely falls. No, Judaism, I would say, is a little bit more rational because it does put high value on intellectual inquiry and debate. Specifically with the Talmudic tradition, which encourages questioning and logical analysis of law and ethics and stuff like that, and which is again why you see so many people from the Judaic faith veering into into you know higher level academics. So this one is a little bit a tougher one, guys. Um, so where I'm going to put this, I hmm, I'm going to give this to hmm, let's see. The problem, see, I want to give it to deism. The problem is deism itself is not a religion. It's sort of a um, sort of a quasi philosophical belief. And like I said, it was historically popular during the Enlightenment. It suggests a creator based solely on reason and observation of the natural world, rejecting supernatural revelation or miracles entirely. Another famous deist was Baruch Spinoza, who was famously excommunicated, even though he was a Spanish Jew, but he was a Catholic, but he was a practicing Catholic, and he was excommunicated from his church for his belief in I I guess you could say deism, but I would say it was more pantheism. Pantheism is, some people say pantheism is no different than atheism, but pantheism is the belief. Pantheists do believe in God. They just believe that God is nature, and so for some people, they will say, "Well, that's just atheism." I don't necessarily think so because atheists would just say, "Well, no, there's just no God. There's just the laws of science." Okay, but there's no reason to then call the laws of science God, or to say that the nat- or to say that the natural world that follows that natural world is God, which follows the laws of science. Like, that is pantheism, not atheism. So those are distinct views, and I would argue that pantheism is still a religious belief, not a non-religious belief. Um, but it does kind of sit somewhere in that gray area. And because of that, that is why the philosopher and mathematician Baruch Spinoza, was excommunicated because of his belief in pantheism. But all of that's to say, so where are we going to side with what is the best religion in terms of rational doctrine? So Again, I wanted to say deism, but deism isn't a religion. Like I could say deism is a religion, but that I think that would be a little disingenuous because if I'm gonna say deism is religion, then I could say scholasticism is a religion, and scholasticism is really a philosophical uh is more of a philosophical tradition that fell within Catholicism. Um, Deists, for the most part, were Christians, but deism itself was a philosophical, was sort of a philosophical viewpoint amongst people who came from a Catholic back. I mean, sorry, they came from a Christian background. I'm not going to say that deism itself is a religion. I'm going to hold to that to be more of a philosophical viewpoint. Therefore, the winner of the third category of best religion in terms of the most rational doctrine, I'm going to give to Judaism because of its Talmudic tradition that encourages questioning and logical analysis of law and ethics, and because Judaic faith in general puts a higher value on intellectual inquiry and debate. Judaism gets the Judaism gets the trophy. All right. I wanted to say deism, but again, that I just don't think that really works because deism isn't really a religion. It's a philosophical viewpoint amongst people who, um, amongst theists, that is people who believe in God. But you can be a deist and ceremonial. You can be like a deist and like a ceremonial Christian, which means you're just Christian just by you attend church and events, but you don't really hold those views. But you're a deist, like you believe there's a God, you just don't believe that he's actually takes any role in the natural world whatsoever. That he exists outside of the natural world, sort of like a the clockmaker in the clock. Like he designed the clock to run on his own, and then he's removed from it once he's created that very clock. That the so-called blind, or what Richard Dawkins once referred to as the blind watchmaker. In any case, again, deism isn't a religion, so I'm going to give most rational in terms of empirical, in terms of empirical approach and philosophical logic and all that stuff to Judaism. So Judaism wins the third category for best religion in terms of the most rational doctrine because of its tradition, because of its Talmudic tradition, and its strong emphasis on intellectual inquiry and debate. There's no secret that many of our academic and intellectual giants of the past 2 centuries, many of them have been of the Jewish faith, or like or maybe not of Jewish faith because they may not have been practicing Jews, but they were Jewish by ethnicity. And yes, there's ethnic Jews because it is a ethno religious group. So there you go, guys. So what time is it? What I got here? 8:48. So yeah, right about time for me to cut this off. So there we go. So in terms of what is the best religion, we just we decided to break that up into three different categories. The first category was best religion by sheer number of adherents, and that category went to Christianity for having the most adherents at 2.9 billion followers across the world. Uh, then the second category was the best religion in terms of having the most pro social followers, That went to the Mormons, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, for having the most pro-social followers. And the third category was the best religion in terms of having the most rational doctrine, and that goes to Judaism because of its high emphasis on intellectual inquiry and debate, and the Talmudic tradition which it holds, which teaches people to question and use logical analysis. Okay, so there we go. That was so it. So it wasn't a very so it wasn't a simple answer, but I think we've arrived at some some conclusions there. And again, these things may change in time. This was just our very subjective little look at this. Um, and I will continue throughout the week with more questions for religious debate. Things that might get a little bit more juicy, but because there was not a lot of people in the chat room to give a lot of back and forth on this, I've decided to buttress this discussion with looking at some Google, um, some information coming from Google, so this wouldn't be too overly subjective. And anything we discuss here, again, guys, you can check for yourself, and confirm whether I'm talking trash or not. I assure you that I'm not, but please go, go check the sources for yourself and see whether you agree or disagree or whatever. Then you can leave it in the comments. And if you guys like what I'm doing here, make sure to drop me a super. Um, you can donate whatever you feel is worth giving, or you can cash at me at $ just a contrarian, or you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. All the links to all of these will be in the description, as well as the super when you click on the video. Um, when if you decide to watch this broadcast on replay, the super button will be right there for you to click on to help your boy out, so I can get some more fruit snacks, some more juju fish. So I ate them all. Okay, but thank you for letting me have this little discussion with you guys. Hope many of you come back. Hope there's many more of you, because uh the next one I'm going to do, hopefully tomorrow around the same time, is what is a god. Yeah, we're going to do what is a god for the next debate. So let's see how that one goes. All right, until then, peace.